I'm glad to have you this evening. I always look forward to having you. My name is Jenan Kandwanaho, and I'm the team leader, or call me chief servant, at Jonaki Holdings Limited. And at Jonaki Holdings Limited, we offer credit, we offer financial relief. If you're stuck somewhere, you have some consignment you want to clear, you have something you want to close, you have some business deal you want to close, and you're short by a small amount of money or a chunk of money, but you're actually sure of your cash flows, we're going to help you close that deal in style in a short time, and then you pay us in a longer period of time as agreed. So that's what we do at Jonaki Holdings Limited, and we look forward to serving you, and that's why we're in business, to serve you so that you can grow as you also grow. So I come here every Friday from 5:30 for 20 minutes now to speak to you of what the Lord has put in my heart, especially concerning business. But I've been very specific. I nowadays speak about money lending because that industry, that business has been misused. It has been misused. It has attracted a wrong name, a bad name. And it's me and you who is participating in this business, who is a key player in this business, that can actually clear this business, that can actually make it orderly, that can actually confirm to the public that, you know what, you can do this business and do it in a good way. Where your intention is not to defraud people, where the intention is not to knock people out of business, but your intention is to serve people. So that's why I've been majorly concentrating in the last few months on money lending. And that takes me to today's topic that we have, partnerships. And you see, some of these topics that I speak about do not apply to money lending alone, but they also apply to other businesses. So you might not be playing in money lending, but you do partnerships. You have a partner in business and you've been struggling with the partnership, or you've been thinking about partnerships. So you've been looking at someone or looking at considering someone else whom you can partner with. So I want to speak to you, but in the angle of money lending, on how we should partner. Of what the key things that you have to actually look at. So I'll go right at it. Partnership in money lending business. First point, it is important that before you think of a partner, because you see, money lending can become tricky. Much of the time, you have huge demand of the clientele. Yes, people need money than what you can actually supply, than what you can satisfy. So people need a lot of money, but you don't have the money to satisfy them. So most of the guys who lend money are looking for partners who can actually put liquidity on board, who can finance the businesses. You have clientele who need the money, but you don't have the money. So much of the work, or much of the ordeal of the mountain that money lenders have is looking for people who can bring in money. So a key thing to look at in partnership, money should not be the driving factor. Do not look at money as a driving factor to do partnerships. Why? Because before you know it, you're going to accumulate liquidity and you're able to satisfy the demand of the customers. And you see then, if someone is not relatable, if you're not relatable to that someone in other aspects, and all you looked at was money, then it becomes very heavy for you. Because the binding ground for you and this partner of yours was money. But now you have grown and you have the money. Now, all this that I'm saying, I have lived it. Because there are moments that we didn't have money at Jonaki Holdings Limited, and we had to borrow from someone who had the money. So you can imagine if we had struck the partnership based on the amount of money that the person was bringing on board, or based on the demand that we had for the money, then that would be tricky, especially if someone does not relate with you when it comes to your values. I give an example. At Jonaki Holdings Limited, we tithe. So if we tithe and you have a partner, 50-50 shares in the company, and is not agreeable to the principle of tithing, then it becomes a challenge. Why? Because you don't have common values. I'll give you another example. We can decide that, you know what, 2% of the profits that come from the business, we're going to give it to charity. But if you're not relatable to this partner of yours on the principle of charity, on the principle of what it is that you should do with the profits, then you'll clash. Because you don't have common values that you're looking at. So before you think of a partner, make sure you have common values. Common values. Point number 2, make sure there is a proper paperwork that is done. You could be friends, you could be relatives, you could have moved a journey, a long journey at that. You have been together for a number of years, but put down something in word. Write down something. Don't base on the friendship that you have. Don't base on the relationship that you have. Ultimately, you might clash. And before long, you will clash. Why? Because he's going to bring his opinion or her opinion, and you bring your opinion. And sometimes your opinions will clash. And you have to pick out something that works and move with it. So if you've not written down what it is that is meant to guide you, then you'll definitely clash, and the clash will be very bad, to the extent that you actually will have to close that business. So you can imagine if the business has run for like 10 years, and you actually have to close it and start from zero. So it becomes very bad and very pathetic. It will have devalued your efforts and your energies that you put in that business. So a key thing is put it down. Write it down. And if you guys that have mentored, you need to engage a lawyer, because you're not an expert at drafting such documents. You're not an expert. You're not an expert. That's why you need to engage a lawyer to draft that partnership deed for you, whether you're relatives or whether you're close friends. So put it in writing so that you can know Jonan and perhaps Andy, they're going to have 50-50 shares. And Jonan is going to be a managing director. He's going to be managing the operations of the business. Whereas Andy is going to contribute a particular amount of money that is going to participate or to support the business. So all the details should be spelled out, because before you know it, you're going to start making profits. You're going to start making proceeds. And you'll be stuck on how you're going to share. You'll be stuck. So you'll start thinking that, what, me as Jonan, I'm putting in a lot of money. But my partner is dormant, he's silent, he's sleeping. So how come he wants us to share 50-50? And yet, before you know it, the partner that you're saying that he's sleeping actually put money on board. So had you put something in writing that, so-and-so is putting money on board, and this one is going to be operating the business, then there would have been clarity. You're very well aware that you're going to share the profits 50-50. So the moment you put something down, it minimizes the clashes you're going to have along the way as you're doing business. So put something down. So first thing is, I relate on the values. Put something down. The values should be common across the board, but also put something down. Point number 3, if you're lending money, I would advise, do not start thinking partnership because you have huge demand for money, because you have a lot of pressure. Do not partner because of the pressure. What you can do is what I did. Get cheap money, lend it out. When the client pays back, go and pay it back. But make sure, as you're thinking partnership, you're partnering not because you're on pressure of money. Do not be on pressure of money and then you think of partnership. You can get a joint venture partner who is going to be financing your businesses or your deals that you have. You have Jonan who needs money. Go and assess him properly. Go pick money from a colleague or a partner and come and lend to Jonan. And then when the person pays back, put it back. But selling shares just because you have need for money is very drastic. It's very dangerous. So don't do that. Don't do that. Point number 3. It is important to partner because you need a second hand. You see, your opinion as you and your staff, especially if you're the sole owner of the business, your staff are your staff. Your business is your business. So meaning that your decision majorly is what passes. You don't have checks and balances. But if you have a partner in place, he'll put checks and balances in place. Because before you transact, you need to consult. Before you do something drastic, before you do anything, before you divert the funds, you need to consult. Why? Because it's not you alone. You have your colleague that you're working with. You have your colleague that put money on board. You have your colleague that you're running the business with. And it's spelled out clearly. So the third key thing for a partner is that you need a second mind. And a second mind that has a voice, a second mind that has a command. There are lots of temptations. Someone will come with a property And that's how people get out of business. That's how people lose money. Because they have the money on the account, on Jonakey Holdings account, and they own 100% shares of the company, someone is going to bring a deal, a land, that is worth maybe 200 million, but he's selling it at 100 million, half value. But you see, when we're starting the year, I didn't have it in my strategy to buy land. But because there's money on the account that is meant to be serving clients, I now divert it. Why do I divert it? Because I don't have anyone to tell me that, you know what, Jonan, what you're doing is wrong. What we set out to do at the start of this year was not to buy land, but rather to serve the clientele. So if you have a partner, he will hit on your shoulder and tell you know what, this, I do not remember agreeing on the same. And you see, that's why it takes us back to point number 1, to have the values. Because you're going to clash. You're going to tell this your colleague that, you know what, can't you see the deal? The deal is rich. The deal is very nice. The deal is hot. But you don't know how that deal will turn out to be. In any case, even if it is a good deal, in any case, you didn't have this plan at the start of the year. You're just jumping into it just because it looks exciting. So it keeps you in focus. If you have a second eye, if you have another partner that is going to panel beat you and keep you in lane. And that's where the clashes come from. That's where the crisis comes from. And it's a healthy crisis. It's a healthy check and balance. So if you have common values and someone denies you in quotes of such an opportunity, then you'll still get on board and continue doing business. But if you don't have shared values, that's where separation starts. You start thinking, how do I run away from my partner? Why? Because he has stopped me from closing this deal, from buying this land. Enmity starts developing, and then business cannot grow. Raba sheke. You see that? Do you see that? So in partnership, it is very, very key. It is very, very key that you have common values, that you have shared values. And in these shared values, you'll have checks and balances. And they will not separate you. They will not separate you. Fourth point. You need to have a partner. You need to have a partner if the business has to grow. You see, even when you're looking for funding, people tend to give you money. People tend to give you money when you have a second person in the business. Why? Because you cannot spend on excitement. You cannot spend on anxiety. You cannot spend on something that you wish to spend on because you have a second eye. So people tend to buy in your business. People tend to invest in your business just because you have a partner. Meaning that if you're able to bear the opinion of another person and you've been thriving for the last 10 years, that means that you're resilient. The business can stand a test of time. That in case of any eventuality, God forbid, the business can still run. There is some business continuity. It's not that when you actually leave the business stops. So you can imagine even if it were you, if you're going to invest with someone, you'd invest with someone whom you know that even when he departs, the business will continue. There's business continuity. That the business does not stop with that person. So partnership ensures business continuity. In case you're not around, your colleague can man that business and manage it and run it. So you should be able to actually look at a partner in that angle. Fifth point. Do not partner with someone who is passive. I say it. Do not partner with someone who is passive. Because a person who is passive gives headache. A person who is passive gives hard time. Because they do not want to participate in the running of the business. All they want is the proceeds that is arising from the business. So a passive partner is a very tricky partner. That even when you have the paperwork, eventually that business is going to crumble. Why? Because the partner is passive. He does not give an opinion. Because as I said in my third point, I said that it is important to have a partner because you need a third eye. You need a second opinion. So you can imagine if your partner is passive, all he puts on board is the money. So meaning that you not have a critic. And we grow by those critics. If you come and tell me, Jonan, the way you're doing business is not right, then that's when I can improve. If you come and tell me that, you know what, the plan that we had at the start of the year was not to buy land, but rather to concentrate on lending this money, then that's a healthy critic. It will keep me in line. It will keep me in business. But you can imagine if you have a partner who is passive, who is dormant, who is sleeping. you're only benefiting on the amount of money he's putting on the table. So I'd advise, especially in money lending, that you actually don't partner with someone who is passive. So if you're going to do 50-50 shares with someone, it is important that whereas you can put money together, but also you have to be participating in the business. You have to be participating in the running of the business. So it's key that your partner can actually participate in the running of the business. Second to final, as you're thinking of a partner, have a time period in mind. I can choose to partner with Steve maybe for 3 years. We agree, put it in writing. You know what, Steve? We are partnering this business for 3 years. Outside 3 years, we shall sit back on table and renegotiate or re-agree. So you can partner for a particular period of time, especially if you do not know this person very well. Because the point that I opened with, the key factor in partnerships is that you have to have shared values. So if you've seen someone and he has interest in your business and you think you do not have yet shared values, or you do not understand this someone very well yet, you can agree with someone that, you know what, let's move this journey for the next 2 years and see how it rolls. And you put it in writing. So that when the 2 years elapse, you can actually sit back and revisit and say, you know what, our partnership has been moving well. How about we extend it for maybe 5 years and see how it runs? So when the time period happens and the partnership is not moving as well or as planned, it is important that you jump off that partnership. Jump off that partnership. Jump off that partnership. Because if the horse is dead, then there's no need for sitting on it, because it will not ride you. That partnership cannot work. And that's how companies have had to survive. That's how others have had to thrive. Because the partnership was not working and they closed the chapter, they moved on. But you can imagine if you didn't have time period in mind, you'll be in that thing for a long haul. And it can be the worst of the time that you can have in your life. And you see, life is not meant to be lived that way. You're meant to enjoy your business. You're meant to enjoy your proceeds. You're meant to enjoy your profits. You're not meant to be in a prison of sorts. I'd rather even close the business and start newly, separate and start newly. But you see, if you have a timeline for a partnership, maybe 2-3 years, you're only praying for the time to arrive or to reach. And then you close that chapter and then you start on another ground. You look for another partner, especially if the business was started by one person. So in the aspect that you think together and you've thought about this business together, which is rare, it is important that you also agree that, you know what, after this kind of period, we can actually transition. Maybe appoint a managing director or appoint a CEO and exit, and you only benefit on the shares or something like that. Some of these things have to come out clear from the word go, because by the time you get to that point, or when you have grown, it will be a bad story. I've seen colleagues who have parted ways in a wrong way. In money lending, I might have a colleague, I might have a relative who wants money. And because he's my relative, I want him to actually receive the money. But if I have a partner, he will tell me, you know what, Jonan, this guy has not been assessed. He cannot meet requirement ABCD. So based on ABCD, we cannot extend this facility to this guy. Even if he's your uncle or your relative, we cannot. And you see, because of such a guidance, the business will be saved. The business will be saved. So it helps a lot. But as you think about partnership, as I come to closure of this engagement, as you think about partnership, it is key that you don't look at the money. Don't look at the money. Because you're in a crisis, because you need money to serve a client, then you engage a partner. No. Make sure you have common values. Make sure you have moved the journey. Make sure there's some bit of trust. Make sure communication is clear between you. And there's written paperwork. There's written document. There is a partnership deed that is meant to be guiding that relationship. If you don't do that, it will be tricky. It will be headache. You'd rather run the business as a sole partner. When you grow it and you feel like you're tired of it, sell it off. But if you're partnering and you're basing on word of mouth, basing on trust is very key, but it's important you write it down. But also the key game changer is that you should have shared values. So guys, go out there, thrive, look for partners only based on the values, but not the amount of money that someone is putting on the table. I had the same challenge while I was starting Jonaki. I had huge demand for money. I didn't have the money. Guys wanted to buy shares, 50, 30. But thank God, a guy wanted to buy 50 shares, somehow backed off because our statement was not as good. So that was good. So you can imagine if I had grown and this partner is on, because I came to realize that we didn't have common values, we didn't have shared values. The business will have closed, it will have clashed. Properly, would have landed had we got this guy on board. But I would get money cheaply from him and then go lend and pay him back. Now, it is a clear chapter. So had I gotten into that relationship or that partnership at that level, perhaps Jonah Key wouldn't be anymore. So go out there, serve the public, serve the community, but before you partner, look at the values rather than the crisis you're in, rather than the money that you're looking at, that person is actually bringing on board. So with that, God bless you. God bless the work of your hands. God cover you with his blood and your families. Go out there, bless communities, employ people, be happy, enjoy. Have a blessed Friday and enjoy the rest of the weekend. I love you guys. Go out and do great and real and thriving partnerships based on values and not based on the crisis you're in, the need for the money. And make sure if you're in that partnership, communicate. Write down every word that is meant to guide you in your relationship as you're doing the partnership. So you can check out this video always on my YouTube channel, Jonah Nkandwanaho. You can subscribe, it's free of charge. You can like, you can comment, ask a question, and then I look forward to working with you this journey, and we meet at the top. I love you guys. Have a blessed Friday evening and the rest of the weekend. Cheers. See you next week, 5:30, same time, same place. Blessings and God bless you. Thank you.